What's good? What's up? Welcome to the Mix Vixen Live. I'm your host, Queen. I know I have not seen you on YouTube in a really long time, and we're gonna catch up on why I haven't been here. Nothing big, nothing major, and then we're gonna get into Diddy. So I have a little agenda. I have a little agenda. So first, some channel updates. Chanel. Some channel updates. Then we're gonna talk about how Diddy groomed the community, because that's what he did. We're gonna go into sex, kink, and queerness, because it seems like some of y'all don't quite hey Rue, hey Diamond, hey Nicole. It seems like folks seem to conflate sex, kink, queerness with being a sexual predator. Those are not the same things. Then we're gonna get into, is Diddy a freak? Actually, I want to change that to what the goal of this conversation is the Me Too movement going to be something that happens in the hip hop community? I do have a video that I did last year talking about how the Me Too movement failed the hip hop community. So we're going to get into a lot of that. I want this to be a community discussion, so put stuff in the chat, put your ideas in the chat, and all of that. So yeah, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things afoot. So what's going on with me? Channel updates. I have actually been working on videos behind the scenes. So in October, you'll start seeing video essays from me again. I'm trying to make sure that I work ahead of time so that I have batch content. I don't like creating content as I go because I don't know, it just feels rushed. I don't get to put the work into it that I want to that I want to put into it. So I'm not doing that anymore. The way I'll do that is with lives. If I want to say something real quick, I'll just hop on live. I just think it makes more sense. It's a lot more conducive for what I want to do. I don't have to edit it. I just have to like put my thoughts on an outline or whatever, and I go straight from there. So that's what the channel will look like: video essays, and then if I have anything abrupt that I want to say, I will do a live. I do not like being this is not a news network. I'm not trying to do breaking news. I'm also not a gossip channel. I'm also not a freaking CNN. That urgency is not needed with the content I create, because that's not the kind of content I create. It's just not. Um, and I have to take heed to the kind of content creator that I am. I'm not fucking doing that. I don't have time. I have a full-time job. I have a podcast that I run. And yeah, I'm not a breaking news ass bitch. So thank you, Diamond. Diamond, my friend Diamond. Let me put you on the screen. Yeah, welcome to live, because scripted videos. I don't really like. I actually like scripted video. My videos are more so outlined. I don't really like a script, but I have ideas for certain things that I want to do that just makes more sense to be a video in a video format with editing, with B-roll and all of that stuff. And those take time. And if I want to just do regular commentary, for me, it does not make sense to record that. It just makes more sense to do a live. So you will see me doing more lives when I want to just hop in and say something about something that's happening in pop culture in relation to Black women, Black femmes, and Black non-binary folks. But oh my gosh, my friend Tara is ridiculous. And yeah, that's just easier for me to do, to hop on a live when I have something topical I want to talk about. And then also I prefer those conversations to be communal. And it's easy to be communal with those conversations because I have the chat. I can put y'all on the screen and all of that stuff. If you want to know where I've been, if you were in my last live about Kamala Harris, I got a new job, so I'm just getting more acquainted with working at this new place and figuring out working this job, how I'm going to create. I've already figured that out. Like I said, I do have videos that I've already started to create, but I won't start putting them out until October. That way I'm not rushing. I really do not like to rush. I really like the room to breathe and create and not just be pumping everything out because I'm a one person team. I come up with the ideas, I create the story, I edit the video, I put it out, I promote it. It's just a lot. And I think it makes more sense to do it in a way that's more sustainable to me. So that's how you'll see it. But if I do have impromptu things to talk about, I will hop on a live, especially because I don't really use social media the way I used to use it. I used to tweet a lot of my thoughts about things happening in pop culture in relation to Black women and femmes, or I would do something on Instagram stories. I'm not really a TikToker in that way where I jump on and give my opinion. I think I'd much rather just do that here because it could be communal and yet we can all talk about it together. It just makes more sense to do that. So you will see me on lives more. I do not plan to do long lives, an hour tops, because I don't know. I'm just really stringent with time and I'm really stingy with it. So my lives will probably be like an hour. If it's ever longer than that, that's because we have lots to talk about or whatever. I have been up to a few things. If there's other ways that you can keep up with me, I have a newsletter that I drop monthly, and I'm trying my best. I did one for the month of September that lets you know what's going on with me, what I'm creating. Also because I don't know. I'm just in a phase right now where I don't really like social media like I used to. I don't want to use it the way I used to. I kind of want to use it to just for shits and gigs. That's funny. That's shits and gigs. I just want to use it for fun now. I don't care to Hey Julian, it's okay you're late. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I don't care to be on social media is not my content creation tool. Social media is where I promote my content and also where I shoot the shit. So I'm trying to, I guess, use social media more like a non-content creative person again, so that it becomes more fun for me. But right now, I'm at a point where I really hate social media. If you follow me on Instagram, you realize I'm hardly on there. If you follow me on Twitter, I don't tweet as much as I used to. If you have me on Threads, sometimes I'm there. Thread is a really weird app to me. Everyone is fake nice on that app. It's weird. Um, but yeah, so if you want to keep up with me, I suggest you follow my newsletter, or you can even become a free member on Patreon. You can do that now. Free memberships on Patreon, so you can keep up with what I'm working on. If I'm like a guest on another podcast, if I'm taking a break because of this, I am on Patreon pretty regularly. I do other lives on Patreon as well. I did another live on Patreon about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, about what is middle class. And the reason why I did that live is because that's all Kamala Harris was saying throughout her the whole Democratic National Convention. It was like middle class, and it made me wonder what exactly is the middle class. I do plan to do a video about that later on, but I did do a live on Patreon where we talked about what exactly is the middle class. It was kind of like a research session together situation. It was cool. Join on Patreon. It's nice. We do good things there. All right, so um, let's get into it. Let's start talking about Diddy. Unless you have been living under a rock or something, or whatever, I don't know. People live many different places. You are aware that Diddy has been indicted. He has been arrested by the feds. They charge him with many of a crime. Um, Lots of things from sex trafficking to sexual assault to it's just a whole bevy of charges that I am what's the good choice of words for this? I am shocked, but not shocked because I don't think things like this don't happen. I'm shocked because how do How does a community allow for someone to be so horrible for decades in this way? Is just wild to me. I from New York. Every New Yorker got to remind everybody from New York. But I am one of the real New Yorkers who does not care for Diddy. I don't hate him. I didn't hate him, but I never really cared for him. I wasn't a huge Diddy fan. There was songs I like. I did watch the band. I navigated him and his work very, I guess, neutrally. But I didn't like him because his arrogance just really turned me off. And to me, and based on the men around me, Diddy does always look like a punk ass nigga. So I just did not understand why he had so much pull. I did not get it. I felt like I could beat up Diddy. Like it was just I. So that part I am shocked about. I'm shocked about how fearful people were of Diddy because of the power he had and how easily he got power. Because it seems as though he was that powerful as soon as he was in the industry. Doesn't from the stories, it doesn't seem like a gradual build for him being this horrible, um, monstrous person. It's just interesting. Um, so we're going to talk about grooming and how you groom communities. And I actually, this video is from TikTok from months ago when Diddy's when Cassie's video dropped. I put this
I
on.
just want to share something really quickly that I wrote. I just want to share something really quickly that I just want to share something really quickly that I wrote earlier this week in reference to Diddy because I just think it's important to share here too. Let's see. I think about how men not only harmed and abused women, but have also groomed communities so they can continue to harm. Diddy comes to mind presently, but Bill Cosby did this too. He groomed folks into believing he was a great dad. That image aided his abuse. Diddy used the guise of black excellence to continue to allegedly, financially, physically, and sexually abuse people around him out in the open with no repercussions. Until now, it all remained laughable rumors. Not only children or victims of SA are groomed in order for these perpetrators to harm people, they must also groom parents, aunties, and other members of the community in order to succeed. They gain trust by providing money, resources, or cultural reverence. And because they create a dynamic where the community needs them more than they need the community, it takes far too long for the community to hold them accountable and stop the harm. It's a horrible cycle we keep seeing over and over. R. Kelly, Russell Simmons, etc. The list really goes on. This is why, along with dismantling of patriarchy, because that's necessary, obvious, the classism that feeds black excellence has to fall with it. If we depend on the few within the community to have all the power, money, and influence, this cycle of harm will never end. This is why I always emphasize that the power needs to be in a collective. The power needs to be in community, not in an individual. So it's not just
Wait.
taking down Diddy, taking down Russell Simmons, and all these other alleged abusers. It's also about reworking our ideas around community and collective, because this will continue to happen if we depend on individuals to be the catalyst of liberation. Money is not going to free us. Capitalism is not going to free us. Like, community will.
Yeah, so I posted that video a couple of months ago, and obviously I still believe that, but not even but I just think it's important that we understand how these black men. I mentioned R. Kelly. I mentioned Bill Cosby. I don't know why I always say Bill Cosby, but whatever. Bill Cosby, Russell Simmons. Um, they not only groom their victims and hurt their victims and harm their victims, the people who survived what they did. They also did that to the communities around them. And something that I've learned about grooming, because the last organization I worked for was a organization that had to do with child education. We did a lot of trainings about these these particular type of systems of harm that happen to children. So one of the trainings we had was about grooming and about how most conversations about grooming are about just between an adult and a child and how the adult grooms a child. It really talks about how adults can groom other adults because of the power and influence that they have. So one of the examples they used was like a basketball coach, and there's a basketball coach who was abusing boys on the team. And the way that that basketball coach gets away with that is by grooming everyone in that community. So that person makes the parents trust them. That person makes the teachers and the other teachers in the school trust them. They become these very noble members of the community on purpose so that when survivors tell their story or eventually, get the courage to tell their story, because they realize they are being harmed, no one believes the survivor. And that's on purpose. And that is what Diddy did as well. Donating money to HBCUs. Um, his whole Vote or Die campaign. All of the things that Diddy did to make him seem like a integral member of the black community was on purpose, so that with in alignment with him being an evil person who threatened people's lives often, it was very hard to believe that that was the individual he was because of the amount of good he did, and also the amount of people who depended on Diddy. So if you take this person down, if you take down this um, noble member of the community, if you take them down, then what does that mean for the rest of the community? And that is why we have to stop relying on individuals to be the spokesperson, to be the beacon, to be the whatever, all these things that black excellence says that we need to have to excel as people. We have to get rid of those things, because what it does is it makes you rely on individuals for your salvation, and that allows them to harm you freely. Because why would we check somebody who has all the power in the community? Why would we tell them that they're wrong? Why would we get rid of them? My cat's playing. We're less inclined to do that because they have all the money, they have all the power, and they have all the respect. So individuals like this are kind of always going to exist because we have become too individualistic with our practices. Just think about how we go about parasocial relationships, and how we are about celebrities, and how we revere um, certain people in our own communities as special people, as deities, as these people who can do no wrong. So when you hear that they do wrong, you don't believe it and you don't take action. And Diddy is an example of that, of how whole communities of people can be groomed to believe that an individual is okay and fine, and that their practices are fine to do. Why? Because that person has all the power. There's no way that Diddy led an organized crime organization, because that's what the fuck it sounds like, and outside of the rumors of him being gay, which we'll get to later, for a lot of us, this is the first we're hearing of it. Like, fear runs deep. And it's interesting that because he is in prison now, because he's in jail now, that more people are talking because now they feel safe. Shine went to prison because of this person and has since seemed to be, you know, atoned whatever past he had with Diddy. But as soon as Diddy is locked up, he's saying something else. And it's because he probably feels safer because Diddy is locked up. I don't know. It's just wild. I think it's important for us to not idolize people. Um, because it fucks us up every time. Every fucking time. Even when it comes to the people you idolize who are, talking about liberation in the ways that all of us on all of us understand on this stream, you gotta interrogate people's shit. And if it's not community oriented, if it's all about the individual, that ain't it. It's not it. What's crazy is that half of these stories were open secrets. I heard stories when I was 20 years old and working that vibe. They were, oh, yeah, that's the thing for me because I do have other folks. Thanks, Carlos, for adding that. That's the thing for me that makes me a little makes me a little weary is that they were open secrets within the industry, and they were allowed to be open secrets for this long because of structures of power. You're not the first person that I've spoken to who works in journalism who was like, "Oh, this is just standard practice," and that's why the gist of this conversation is will the Me Too movement, will the Me Too movement be effective in hip hop? I don't believe so. Even in my video that I had last year, I said I didn't think so, and I still don't believe so because we still are very okay with the systems that are set in place. A couple of weeks ago, y'all remember what happened with Cleo and Ice Spice? I tweeted something to critique that this is an obvious colorism issue, right? And then also this is obviously the faulty ethics of capitalism within the entertainment industry. And folks did not get that. Like I saw a video on what was it called? Ole and Friends panel discussion, and these are people who are smart. These are people who are talk about liberation stuff, and even to hear them say, "Well, that's the way the industry is," and sometimes you open for people and you don't get paid, and all of this stuff is very. It's like we're all institutionalized to just keep systems the way they are. So what if that's the way it is? It's not right. It's not right that girl was on tour getting treated like shit. It's not right that people think that you need a fucking good contract in order to get a fucking chicken salad. And if that's what you're thinking about between Ice Spice and Cleo Trapper, folks who are not even that powerful and famous, these people still gonna be going around assaulting people because we are too embedded in these systems and don't want to shake them up and don't want to challenge them and want to just put our hands up and say, well, that's just the way it is. That's how that go. You want to be in a no. And just because somebody wants to be in a certain industry does not mean that they should have to be harmed and treated that way. And that's just the way it is. It makes no sense. It's just sad to see how quickly we fall into that. It's sad to me. I don't know if it's sad to people watching it, but that shit is sad. Anytime I think to myself, well, that's just the way it is, right after that thought, I think, well, why is it like that? Why? And should it be like that? So it's not just there will be another Diddy because the systems in place will allow another Diddy to exist. We want black excellence. We think it's okay for people to be harmed at work. That's a workplace. All of that shit is a workplace. And I think it's okay. I remember with the Lizzo thing. That is a workplace. People should not be treated like that at work. That's not okay. That's not good. But we like to say that's the way the system is. That's how it is when you work in the entertainment industry. That's not right. Most of us on the stream, well, not most of us, but a lot of us are content creators. A lot of us engage in the industry. Do you want to be treated that way? Do you want to be a part of a system that treats people that way? I know I fucking don't. That's why I'm on fucking YouTube and not trying to be in those things. That's why, although I always knew I wanted to be like a writer at a magazine, I never really did it because I'm not fucking falling in line for you motherfuckers. I'm just not doing it. That ain't me. Not how it's built. You know. So that's those are my thoughts on grooming the community. Do y'all have any thoughts on that? The grooming, the let me look in the comments and see what's going on in here. Oh, you saw that episode also? I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that episode. I generally I watch the show often, but that episode was very disappointing to me, honestly. It was just not really understanding colorism. And for folks who don't know what I'm talking about, I will put a link to the episode in the show notes after this. I didn't do anything in the description box before, but I'll make sure I'll put some in later. But that episode was really disappointing. The colorism conversation fell a little flat, and also the I don't know. I don't give grace to light skinned people, so that annoyed me. Okay, so I'll move on since I don't see anybody in the chat saying anything. So I want to get into the sex, kink, and queerness things that keep seem to be popping up. There are so many people who are attaching the crimes, literal crimes that Diddy has been indicted for to like being freaky and being nasty. And like it's a kink. Well, he's kinky, so that's what he's into. And it's like that's not kink. Sexual assault is not kink. Sexual assault is a crime. Sexual assault means no consent happening at all. And I really need y'all to stop conflating that shit. As a person who likes kink, as a person who most considered freaky, I am offended every time y'all conflate that shit because it is not the same. The key word in all of that is consent. Someone who sexually assaults someone does not believe in consent. And I feel like I'm yelling at y'all. Y'all ain't do nothing. I'm a little concerned because I thought we came a little bit of a long way because the Me Too movement has pushed, thank you to Toronto Burke. The Me Too movement has pushed a lot of our ideas and thoughts on consent. And I thought we was doing a little better with that. But this situation has shown me that we have not. Y'all still don't understand consent. Y'all still don't understand consent. And I figure I'll start the conversation talking about sex. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. But we're talking about relations, right? In its purest form, relations it's supposed to be for pleasure and for procreation. That is why people do relations. That other thing, the words I cannot say, that's not sex. But we have been conditioned and we live in a world that has decided that because many of the religions that we follow say that relations is a deviant behavior that relations is something dirty, that that is also in the same box as deviance. That we put that in the same section as a lot of deviance and sexual harms and horrible things. Those aren't the same thing at all. And I just really want to challenge all of us to think bigger than what we've been told, because that is not what relations is. It's for pleasure and to procreate. If those things aren't happening, it's not, shouldn't be considered sex. Sex is a consensual act. These other things are not consensual, and we have put them in the same box. We gotta get rid of that. And a lot of that has to do with Abrahamic religions um, dictating that straight monogamy is the only coupling that matters and that is right. So if you relate to people in many different ways, if you're queer, if you are non monogamous, if you um, are into group sex, if you um, are into receiving, if your pathways to pleasures are something not traditional, so a not a phallic thing going in a hole, you have gone off the rails and you are just as horrible as a PDF file, which is ridiculous, which is not what it is. And although we say we're sex positive and we're moving in that direction and sexual liberation is happening, and I don't know, everybody seems to be polyamorous all of a sudden. Are we really moving that forward when our reaction is to call someone who is an obvious predator to flatten it out to, oh, he a freak? He is not a freak. He's a fucking predator who preys on people and uses fear and does acts on people without consent. That is not a fucking freak. That is not being sexual. That's not lusty. That's a sounds like a sexual sociopath or some shit, or psychopath. I don't know. I don't know words. Um, the focus on him. Yes, that whole baby oil thing got on my nerves. Got on my nerves. Um, just got on my nerves because it was just so basic and like low hanging fruit. Like all you gotta do is go to a sex party and there's gonna be lots of baby oil. Okay, and there's no he did not have the baby oil because he was freaky. He had the baby oil because he's a whole predator. He's a whole predator. And people are focusing on baby oil? Really? I don't know. I just didn't get it. I wanted to make sure that I put something out in the world that redirected that. And assuming that people who are in kink, assuming people who are non-monogamous, ethically non-monogamous, assuming people who are swingers, assuming people who have different pathways to sexual pleasure that don't fit the norm of what cis hetero monogamy says it is whack. There's mad different ways to get to pleasure that has nothing to do with controlling another individual without consent. And the fact that many of us still believe that that is sex is disappointing because it's not. It's really not. I had a conversation with my friend over the weekend. Him and I are both bisexual. And we were talking over dinner, and he happened to mention, and I'm glad he did because it made me want to say this here. But he was talking about, he wished that Diddy could be his free bisexual self, and maybe these things wouldn't happen. And that's my friend. I love him to death. But it enraged me because that also assumes that all closeted individuals, because they do not come out or whatever, that they now become predators and deviants. And it's like, no, like I really want us to do the work to separate those foolish ideas about queerness and about anyone who doesn't perform cis hetero patriarchy in that way to be considered deviant. When the actual deviants, when the people who are actually grooming and harming women and children are not queer people, are not the people at the sex parties. It is mostly these men with money who just want to enforce control. It's even men without money who just want to enforce control. The only prerequisite you need to be a predator is to be a person who wants to enforce control by any means necessary. That's all that is required. It has nothing to do with your sexual orientation, has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with your kinks. It's literally about people not caring about consent and wanting to dominate other people. And we should do the work to not conflate that. Those are not the same things. And I know it's because of the way that we've been sold when it comes to sex. So anytime there is a let's think about movies and stuff. Anytime there is like a powerful man who's doing whatever he wants, there's always lots of like sex involved, or lots of, it seems as though because he has this money, it opens all of these sexual doors for them. When honestly, you can find consenting adults to do many things just because they want to do it. Like I don't understand why people think that Diddy was like this because of money and things like that. I think even when he wasn't rich, he probably was a predator. Like I think about Russell Simmons, and if you watch the On the Record documentary, I believe it was on HBO Max. I don't know if it's still on there. He was harming people when he was even broke, allegedly. Russell Simmons, because it's all about control. It's not about finally getting the access to have the kind of sex you want. It's about controlling people and not caring about them consenting to what they want because you are powerful and you can have whatever you want. Those are not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And I was really I do want to talk more about the queerness piece of that and the assumption that he wouldn't have harmed if he would have came out, and how dangerous that is for queer folks, particularly bisexual and gay men. Um, because there's already a connotation that bisexual and gay men are harmful just by the nature of their sexuality. Um, it is bisexual men and gay men that the reason why people have HIV, which is like, no, it just feeds into all of those stigmas and all those ideas about certain ways of being a deviant thing, where no one is harmed. No one is harmed when two consenting queer people are doing something. No one is harmed when consenting people are having an orgy. People are harmed when powerful people don't give a fuck about consent. And that's basically what's going on with Diddy. That's basically the issue. Is that he didn't give a fuck about consent. Because he's an evil person. He's an evil. I can't even. Oh. It's hard to have this conversation because there's so much you can't say on YouTube, and I didn't even think about that before I did this live. Yeah, Russell is another. Honestly, I'm surprised, and I think it's because of Diddy arrogance. Because I thought he would flee the country. I thought he would leave. I thought he would be out of here. But I think it's his arrogance that kept him here because yeah, I'm just surprised that Diddy stayed around long enough to get arrested. To be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought he would have left as soon as Cassie um, dropped her lawsuit. I thought he would have been out, but I really think it's his arrogance that kept him here. That is a really arrogant person. So Diddy is not a freak. I hate the diddler. A lot of the jokes people are making are not funny to me, mostly because I am a person who, if you watch my video about age gaps, I talked about how I have been in many age gap relationships. I was also groomed as a teenager by a grown ass man. So I don't have any room for jokes when it comes to that because of my life experience. And also being a woman and experiencing that kind of harm, I just I don't know. I I know everyone has different kinds of humor. I'm not really a dark humor person, but then also a lot of the jokes around it are just really tasteless, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Um, what has been some of y'all thoughts when it comes to Diddy? Those are some of mine. I'll be honest and say I don't have a lot to say about what I think is going to happen. I don't have a lot to say about what I think this means for the hip hop industry because I really think that this means nothing. I think he's a big fish that they're taking out, which is great, but I don't think it means anything because he's not the only one. He's not the only one. Um, and if I look back on the Me Too movement when it came for Hollywood, they did take out a couple of big fish, and a lot of people lost their jobs. But those people are fine. Those people are fine, and I think that'll be the case for the hip hop industry. The only thing that could make it different is that the hip hop industry and the people who are harming people in the hip hop industry are black men. And I don't care how much black men try to position themselves to be like white men, they are still niggas. And that is probably why what's happening to Diddy is happening because he's not the only one. Someone taught him this. Someone taught him this. According to a lot of the folks, he learned a lot of this from Audrey Harrell, and he also learned this from this face, Clive Davis. That's how Diddy learned a lot of this stuff. How Diddy became to be in this way. Supposedly, he was groomed by Clive Davis. Diddy, allegedly, and I'm sure Diddy groomed other folks to exist in this way because to them, this is what it was supposed to be like. This is what it was like to be a rich person in the music industry. You know, so I don't think this is going to affect the. I don't think this is going to be a ripple effect and a takedown on the industry. I do think it's going to shake things up. I do appreciate seeing that this is giving survivors the space to speak and tell their stories. Because Diddy harmed a lot of people. A lot, like how, like I can't believe that he's like trying to blow up Kid Cudi's car. Like this man is insane and was just used to existing the way he wanted to exist, which is like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's just really crazy to me. But that's all I really had to say about Diddy. I did open the floor to y'all to see if y'all wanted to say anything, but um, y'all are not saying much, and I don't want to keep y'all. I also have 2 videos to record tonight for the channel, so I want to get to that. So yeah, I'll just leave y'all to this. Hopefully, some of the things I said resonated with you. Hopefully, you are doing the work to dismantle some of your ideas around sex and understanding that sex is a consensual act. What Diddy did is not freaky. What Diddy did is predatory. Um, is rape. Simply that. Has nothing to do with his sexual appetite or anything like that. It has everything to do with him being a fucking psychopath or whatever the fuck. But yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for joining this live. Like I said, in October is when I will start dropping videos again. Um, and thank you for joining my live. It was nice to do this. It's kind of all over the place because as I got on here, I realized there was so many words that I can't say on YouTube, which is fucking annoying. But I'm sure you got the gist of what I had to say and what I wanted to talk about. And I'll see you on Patreon or I'll see you in my next video. Peace out, y'all.